Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening everyone. There's less than 6 hours until Tasmania's new border restrictions come into effect, mandating 2 weeks quarantine for all arrivals to clamp down on coronavirus. As the measures come into effect, airlines have significantly cut the number of flights coming into the state, scrapping entire routes. Our reporter Ruby COMMANE joins us live from Hobart Airport. Good evening, Ruby. There's a last-minute dash for Tasmanians to get home tonight.
Pete, there are only 13 commercial flights arriving into the state tonight before those restrictions come in. It might be a nervous evening for those passengers landing in Hobart on the last flight tonight. The 11:15 service from Brisbane with just 45 minutes to spare. We spoke to passengers early today on their last-minute mission to get home to avoid the 2-week quarantine period. A stream of passengers flowing through the arrival gates. The last plane loads to land before new restrictions. Tasmanians changing their plans, rushing home just in time.
We were due to come back yesterday, but we got on the plane today, so that's all I can say. And we're so glad to be home.
I had to return early from Queensland. I've been playing in the state croquet team, and we wanted to get back before we were quarantined.
As the restrictions come into effect and travel locks down, airlines are severely cutting Tasmanian routes. Sydney flights completely scrapped. Only a skeleton of services to continue flights to Melbourne. For some New South Wales visitors, leaving Tasmania today was critical.
I can't believe how lucky we are. We thought if we got stuck here, how would we get home?
The state's airports now making some major changes, with the Launceston base scaling back its services.
With that announcement from the Premier yesterday, that will radically change the operation, and I suspect from probably 29th of March, if not earlier, it will reduce to a single service, essential service, linking Launceston with the mainland.
This level of disruption coming as a shock for many in the aviation industry.
So there's no one on board the aircraft, there's no point flying them. So, when it comes down to Tasmania, basically pretty well closing its borders to non-essential travel, the airlines aren't going to fly empty planes around, so they need to ground their aircraft, which is something we just haven't really seen before.
Leaving this independent Tasmanian flight company questioning if it can offer freight assistance.
We've sort of made assurances to the government and a few other parties that yes, we do have planes there, but if we're subject to quarantine, who knows what happens.
The lack of flights, an extra blow for the state's already struggling tourism industry. PENNICOTT Wilderness Journeys, one of the state's major tour operators, now set to shut up shop for a fortnight as a temporary measure.
We can operate to about middle of next week if everything is under control. I think it's a tough time for employer, and I think it's a tough time for employees, and I think we all have to take a hit.
With continued federal and state government support still sorely needed for many Tasmanian businesses going forward.
What we want to ensure is that we've got businesses and experiences coming out the other end of this. So we're preparing for recovery. We need to have those businesses available to us when it is the right time to get back into the market.
But for now, Tasmanian flight services and our tourism industry remains in a holding pattern. Ruby COMMANE, 7 Tasmania News.
Authorities are trying to track down 54 Tasmanians who were on a cruise with confirmed cases of coronavirus. Public Health says 4 people who disembarked from the Ruby Princess in Sydney yesterday have tested positive for the condition. One of those is a Tasmanian who remains in Sydney tonight. Another person with respiratory symptoms is in a Tasmanian hospital and is being tested. As the ship travelled to New Zealand, passengers are required to self-isolate for 14 days upon arriving home. Medical professionals on the front line of the virus fight have raised concerns protective gear is running low. Some doctors even turning to hardware stores to stock up their supplies. Meanwhile, some local businesses are working together to find a creative solution in the midst of the crisis.
The first batch of a specialty brew, but it's not just spirits like Distillery is making today. This is hand sanitizer.
We had run out of hand sanitizer and none of the ingredients were available. And then I was trying to think about where I could get some ethanol, and I looked at my kitchen shelf and thought, well, what about one of our, predominant gin distilleries?
We had 3 of the 4 major ingredients in stock, so we decided that we'd basically give that formula a go and work with him and try and produce, the hand sanitizer that's needed for the front lines.
The finished product available in bulk for sectors including pharmacies, hospitals and schools as stocks run low. But it's not the only protective gear in demand. Some health professionals turning to hardware stores to stock up the shelves.
Some practices have had to go out and get extra things from places like Bunnings and things, using welding gear and that sort of stuff, but I think the Australian government's sourcing more PPE, so we should be okay.
Primary care providers do have a need for PPE, and we're working proactively with them to ensure that they've got what they need to protect themselves and ultimately the Tasmanian community.
Urging Tasmanians to save protective gear, including masks for those who need it, helping to keep us safe as coronavirus cases escalate on the mainland.
Community transmission in other parts of the country has started to, in some cases, exponentially take place. There is no community transmission in Tasmania at this moment.
And reminding Tasmanians to stick to new self-isolation measures and tell authorities, including police, if someone breaks the rules.
That is an issue. It is putting Tasmanians' health and safety at risk, and it should be reported.
Hefty fines the consequence for anyone who goes against these strict new regulations. Michelle Wisbey, 7 Tasmania News.
As small businesses bear the brunt of a sharp economic downturn, some in the state's hospitality sector are being forced to adapt to survive. Home deliveries, online menus and Instagram orders, just some of the initiatives to keep the cash registers ticking over and staff in jobs.
As health advice towards coronavirus evolves day by day, so too is cafe table service.
We separated out all the tables to really promote social distancing as much as possible.
HAMLET in Hobart is usually a hive of activity. Today it's dead, a result of public isolation. Its popular work experience program unable to continue.
A lot of them face barriers to, social engagement already, and this is just adding on to that pretty rapidly.
More coffees and meals loaded into takeaway containers just to keep the business afloat.
We're just trying to find any sort of ways to keep the doors open.
For this Devonport cafe, a plummet in profits has meant drive-through orders and cashless transactions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are becoming essential to the health of the business and those inside.
We are doing absolutely everything we can to keep our staff and ourselves safe and our customers safe.
A decline through the doors is forcing cafes to innovate. Many are viewing home deliveries as a must.
This is the first time that we're offering a home-cooked meal option for people to take.
A Launceston vegan cafe will shut one of its 2 stores to concentrate on takeaway options. Food orders on social media have also skyrocketed in the last week.
They're just happy for us to create anything for them that they can collect.
The hospitality industry has been savaged as people retreat to their homes. Jobs have been lost, shifts have been slashed. But amid the turbulent times, an act of kindness. Bread and butter serving up free coffees to anyone in the industry that has lost employment.
Everyone that I know works in hospitality has tried to keep paying for their coffee, but I've said no way.
The sector now relying on the public more than ever to keep the cash registers ringing. Garth, Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
As more Tasmanians are encouraged to socially distance themselves and work from home to stop the spread of the virus, they're being encouraged to stay fit and healthy as well. Seeing a reduction in exercise memberships, fitness professionals are beginning to move their services online to help improve physical and mental health.
Running a business that provides health and wellbeing services to corporate offices, SHERRI Ring has noticed an increase in people working from home in the last week. She and her staff were looking at ways to still support their clients.
So I was just coming up with ideas of how I could support my clients, and then I thought, well, wouldn't it be good to support, all employees and all business people.
Starting from Monday, she's providing an online program called Home to Work, offering free workouts, wellbeing and nutrition advice to the public. It's aimed at ensuring people don't feel isolated, supporting their physical and mental wellbeing.
And I think the big thing at the moment is connection. How do we connect to people? How do we keep them happy?
It's an approach also adopted by Hobart-based business The Studio, who have seen more than 50% of its memberships placed on hold or cancelled in the last week.
So the ones who have remained are still as active as ever, which is great to see. But yeah, really big hit and we're a small business.
They began offering free workouts via their Facebook page this week as a way to communicate with their clients and followers to keep them engaged and motivated outside of the gym.
If people aren't going to be working out with us, it's still important for them to be staying fit and healthy, obviously. So I guess the one good thing about this happening in today's day and age is we're so interconnected and it's easy to mobilise and move things online.
Both Todd and Sherri are encouraging people to take advantage of the free initiatives as a way to de-stress and reconnect.
You know, it's just to support people in a really unknown, frightening time.
Ebony, ABBLITT, 7 Tasmanian News.
The AFL will implement even stricter rules if a player tests positive to coronavirus. Gillon McLachlan is taking a hardline stance, saying if a player tests positive, the competition will be stopped for 30 days. He'd previously flagged a shutdown would last just 14 days. As it stands, we're playing on. It's the Bulldogs and Collingwood at Marvel Stadium tonight. After an underwhelming end to the season, Lindisfarne has been crowned champion of the Cricket Tasmania Premier League, having finished on top of the table when the semi-final and grand final were scrapped. Clarence District Cricket Club was named the winner of the women's competition.
We're in a bit of an exciting time, our club at the moment. We've won the last 4 premierships in a row and we're building a really strong culture, so I feel like we're in a really good spot.
Having a few of our girls in and out of the team over Big Bash and the WNCL season, a lot of our younger girls have really stepped up when they needed to, and yeah, I think we've had a really great season overall.
Around the state, Cricket North is set to declare WESBEY as its first grade champion, while Latrobe has been awarded the title in the North West League. In an hour and a half, Sprayton galloper Mystic Journey will make her return to racing in the Group 1 William Reid Stakes at Moonee Valley. The star mare stretched her legs in the pool ahead of tonight's $500,000 race. She's paying $11.60 for the win. And finally in sport, a Tasmanian karting champion has taken control of a different kind of beast, one which could be the future of motorsport in Australia. Lockie Dalton has had his first crack behind the wheel of a high-powered Chevrolet Camaro today after being hand-picked by a local veteran. You're seeing and hearing 500 horsepower of American grunt. Plenty to play with for 17-year-old Lockie Dalton, who's having his first test drive of this Chevrolet Camaro.
It's pretty crazy, really. I'm just, pumped. Won't be able to sleep tonight.
With an Australian karting championship to his name, Dalton graduates from the format with high-powered opportunities within reach. This weekend is just one. Dalton is living out a boyhood dream by going full pelt around Symmons Plains in the 500 horsepower Camaro. He's doing it to prove he's up to this level of racing and to see for himself if it's what he wants to do.
It's exciting, but you have enormous amounts of pressure on you. You have businesses behind you putting a lot of money into you.
He's going to be a star of the future, so we just want to help him a little bit.
Team owner Tim Shaw is running 2 cars in the National Trans Am Series. He believes their exciting and at times unpredictable nature can see them overtake the supercars in popularity.
Speed-wise, they're very, very close to a supercar. They're probably, about 3 seconds a lap off at most tracks. They're very, very quick. They're overpowered. They're undertired. They move around, so they're quite exciting to watch, and they're a handful to drive.
And if all goes well, Shaw could be seeing his young prodigy permanently behind the wheel.
When you're just sitting on the grid, you just got to try and push it all the way and get the job done.
Good evening. It was a cloudy day today with showers around the state with a high of 19 right across Hobart, Launceston, Burnie and Devonport. 21 was the state's top about St Helens, Friendly Beaches and Ouse, Strawn 16 and 19 at Smithton. On the close-up shows cloudy conditions across Tasmania. Further out, extensive high-level cloud over Western Australia while cooler air sits over the mainland. Tomorrow, a high-pressure system moves into the Bight while surface troughs remain over the mainland. South to southwesterly winds tomorrow, 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 4 metres in the west and south and around 1 metre in the north. A strong wind warning is current for eastern coastal waters from the northern tip of Flinders Island to Tasman Island. Tomorrow's forecast now, Hobart and Oatlands reaching a high of 18, Maydena 17 and cloudy. In the north, becoming cloudy about Launceston and Devonport, Liawini 15. Burnie tomorrow becoming cloudy, Strawn expecting a shower or two, 16 at Marrawall. St Helens and Swansea a high of 18 and Orford 17. The UV forecast high 6s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Sunday showers about the west, south and central areas. Monday fine apart from light showers in the west and far south. And Tuesday light showers about the west and far south, fine elsewhere. Capital cities Perth tomorrow reaching 31, Adelaide partly cloudy and Canberra looking mostly sunny and 25. And currently looking cloudy across the state, Hobart 17, Launceston 19 and Devonport 18. That's all for weather tonight, Murph.
That's all our news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Have a nice weekend. Good night.